To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
My amendment's simple, Mr. Chairman. It would not let this bill take effect until all the Epstein files are released. My Republican colleagues have put forward multiple bills this markup that reflect what they say is a renewed focus on protecting kids against trafficking and exploitation. Well, this is the test. If our colleagues are serious, and I believe they are, then they should be happy and eager to join me in supporting this amendment. The text before you is the same text as Mr. Massey and Mr. Khanna's discharge petition that every Democrat and 4 of our Republican colleagues have joined in.
You know, Jill, you're quickly getting a reputation for being someone who knows the power of compromise and has strong ideals and strong principles, but they don't foreclose debate and discussion. And I'm not surprised that you gave Doc time. And I want to thank both of you for being a demonstration to my audience that not all hope is lost, that not everybody hates everybody, and that's all our lawmakers have been about. So, Jill, as somebody who's trying to make a difference in Congress and a member of the Democratic Party, what do you believe today means, not just as an American, but as a Democrat? What do you take from today?
Well, first of all, I will say, these are one of the days, and Rich, I'm sure you agree with me, you go home with a really heavy heart, and you just want to run back to your family, your kids, your loved ones, and give them a big hug. And a lot of times we can't because we're in DC. But this was a hard day for everyone. And I sat, amongst the yelling that you saw, and I sat in silence because what I felt was a lot of my friends across the aisle in a lot of pain. They lost a friend. They lost somebody that they cared about deeply. And I felt a lot of fear on my side of the aisle too. Sometimes the words that come out of their mouth are very different, but if you go to the core of what people are feeling, it's very much the same. A lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of grief and frustration right now. What we've got to do is find some common ground and way to move forward, see the humans in each other. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. Rich and I don't always agree on absolutely everything, but we're people first. And we connected that way from the very beginning when we came into Congress. And that's not going to change even if we disagree on things. And I think that's something we have to keep bringing ourselves back to and remembering. When we look out in the chambers, out in the schoolyards, out at rallies, out at these gatherings, we're people first. And that's really important that we take that away from today.
Conservative activist Charlie Kirk is dead after being shot while speaking at Utah Valley University. He was 31 years old. The founder of Turning Point USA was in Orem, Utah for a stop in his American Comeback Tour when a gunman opened fire. Video shows Kirk being struck in the neck while answering a question about gun violence. He was rushed to the hospital but did not survive. President Donald Trump confirmed his death, calling Kirk great and even legendary, and sending condolences to his wife, Erica, and their 2 children. Kirk rose to prominence as a teenager when he founded Turning Point USA in 2012. The group and its sister organizations became influential on college campuses and within Republican politics. Kirk was a close Trump ally and a polarizing figure, hailed by supporters as a defender of free speech, and condemned by critics for promoting conspiracy theories. The FBI is now assisting in the investigation. He is survived by his wife, podcaster, and entrepreneur Erica Francevey, and their 2 children. Charlie Kirk's death has reignited national conversations about political violence, free speech, and safety at public events.
Hey guys, JD Vance here. I'm out on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, and I've heard from a lot of people that they're so frustrated, as I am, with the fact that Merrick Garland has used the Department of Justice for politics instead of law. And I think it's time we stop just whining about this problem and debating this problem and actually do something about it. So I've announced today that I will be holding all Department of Justice nominees that Merrick Garland will use, if confirmed, not to enforce the law impartially, which is his duty, but clearly to harass his political opponents. I think that we have to grind this department to a halt until Merrick Garland promises to do his job and stop going after his political opponents. Donald Trump is just one and in the most recent example of the fact that Merrick Garland uses his department for political purposes. We have Catholic fathers harassed for their pro-life activism. We, of course, have violent criminals walking the streets after the 2020 summer of riots. And if you're letting the violent criminals go free and you're harassing Christian parents for their political activism, you're not engaged in justice, you're engaged in politics. Let's be honest about that fact, and let's make this department work a little bit more slowly until Merrick Garland changes course and actually does his job the right way. Thanks, guys.
So today saw another act of horrible political violence with the tragic killing of Charlie Kirk. This follows innumerable other recent acts of violence, the assassination attempts against the president, the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. It follows the murder of state legislators in Minnesota. It follows the attack on Paul Pelosi in his home. It follows the murder of a healthcare CEO outside of an office building. one after another, these acts of political violence are creating very dangerous conditions with a tit-for-tat or copycat killings or just the tragic descent into political violence to settle our differences. This is not acceptable, and we all have to condemn it. We have to stop it. We have to settle our differences through debate, through the legislative and political process, not by using violence. This is sickening. It's taking our country in a dangerous downward spiral, and it has got to stop.
I can't stress this enough. These are the basics of government. If we can't do the basics, we're not doing anything right.
We've got this horrific killing of a Ukrainian woman in Charlotte. The suspect's lengthy criminal background has really reignited this debate. What more can be done at the federal level?
Well, we need to be incredibly aggressive, especially in the cities across our country. It's the reason why the president has said, let's work together and solve this crime problem. There's a very small number of people who are career criminals. We need to take those people immediately off the streets. It's just a matter of public safety. And when you think about what the government is for, protecting life, liberty, and property, that is what it's all about. And we're going to do everything we can to assist our friends, whether it be on the state or local level.
I'm proud to have introduced the first bill to ban stock trading among members of Congress back in 2020. And my Democratic colleague, Abigail Spanberger, and I, we put that forward to try to lead the effort. Now we've introduced a bipartisan bill that represents the best of all the various bills that has significant support now on both sides of the aisle. But the thing about the tax issue, it's like a 1031 exchange. What you want to do, it's not like a sweetener. What it does is just say that if you run for Congress, you don't have to take a tax hit on day one. You still have to pay the taxes, but you're able to move it and encourage the movement from an equity to a broadly held mutual fund without the tax consequence. I don't think that's a big problem. I think that's a good thing. Encourage people to run for office, encourage them to divest of specific equity holdings, so you're not day trading and voting on the stuff that matters for a single company. Get into a mutual fund, but you don't have to pay a big tax bill the year you get elected.
When would you have to pay it?
I think that's a good place to be. At the end, when you unload the security, cash it out and take the gain, you pay the tax then. But you don't have to pay a tax on the entire portfolio because you sold it.
It's like a taxless transfer for the time being.
It's like a 1031 exchange. Yeah.
Right. It's like a 401k rollover to an IRA after you leave employment. Is it going to pass? You can just nod because you've been hollering at somebody and your voice is about to go.
Yeah, I was on the House floor yelling, but we need to get a vote on it on the House floor. We've told the Speaker we were giving him the benefit of the doubt through the big, beautiful bill. It's time to bring it to a vote, put it through the committee, amend it. Let's bring it up. The American people expect us to deliver.
And let me just ask one more thing. Does this apply to members of the household? And I'm referring to one person in particular here whose husband happens to be very successful with the timing of his trades.
Yeah, it applies to spouses and dependent children. It should, so you can't game it. And we need to get it to the floor. I'm happy to amend it. I'm happy to have ideas on what to do. But we got to get it to the floor.
Copy.
At the core of so many of the reasons that Americans are underserved, from healthcare, housing, education, a lot of it comes down to this argument of scarcity, that there aren't enough resources. Meanwhile, we have this massive part of the U.S. budget that is completely unaccountable, that has not passed an audit ever.
And you suddenly start to question why that is.
Well, lobbyists have a presence in Washington, D.C., and that's how this place works.
They write out big contributions to individual members of Congress. I walk to a vote later today. I will no doubt bump into one or two defense lobbyists.
Look, this is a highly profitable industry. A lot of people are making a lot of money.
I don't think most people know that half of the U.S. defense budget goes to essentially 5 private companies. Those dollars then go into lobbying efforts to lobby Congress to continue to give them more and more money year after year.
The revolving door is kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to describe the fact that military brass, when they're no longer affiliated with the Pentagon, go into defense contracting. You get people who have insider knowledge into how the Pentagon award such excessive militarized contracts, and then making sure that that happens for every single company that they join.
There's very few defense contractors now compared to what there were many years ago. That's part of why you have no competition.
They're spending money to pay their executives $20 million a year or billions to jack up their stock prices instead of investing in things that would protect the country.
One of the most important things we could do is just simply make the Pentagon pass an audit.
The budgets that we give to teachers, they have to track down how much they spend on pencils.
It's really odd that they are kind of singled out for not having to be fiscally responsible.
And in one case, they found a whole warehouse of over $100 million worth of aircraft parts that they didn't even know existed.
The most recent class of aircraft carrier, the toilets get clogged. You literally have to flush $400,000 worth of acids. That is the definition of flushing money down the toilet.
Right now, there's no consequences. Pentagon fails an audit, nothing happens. We increase funding for the Pentagon.
We're probably going to hit the amazing number of
$1 trillion.
Trillion is something you can't even fathom. There's nothing any of us own that has $1 trillion in it.
Excessive military spending, and in many cases just grossly wasteful military spending, has not improved the quality of life for the vast majority of people in this country.
A small fraction of that money would keep every child out of poverty.
The fact that we have 40 million people who don't know when their next meal is going to come from, I find offensive.
The most important message is not to give up hope.
But we need people to rise up and say, look, your priorities are all screwed up, Congress.
Accountable defense spending is one of the most bipartisan issues that we work on.
It's going to be the power and the voices of people throughout the country that's going to make this change.
You know, if they can't account for equipment, if they can't justify why a hammer has to cost hundreds of dollars, then we should be spending that money. It's really that simple. We wouldn't do anything differently for spending on education or healthcare. Why should we for the Department of Defense?
Hi, I'm Senator Ashley Moody. Today, September the 10th, is the peak of hurricane season, and it's critical that all Floridians stay alert and get prepared. We've already seen significant storm activity this year, and history shows this is the most active and dangerous time for hurricanes to form. Everyone in Florida remembers Helene, Irma, and Michael. These Category 4 and 5 hurricanes all struck on or after September the 10th. So review your emergency plans, stock your disaster kits, and talk to family about what to do if a storm approaches. Preparation saves lives. For the latest updates, checklists, and recovery resources, visit floridadisaster.org. Stay safe, Florida.
I understand that this is in the Constitution, that Congress has oversight over D.C. What I don't understand is why we're asking for line item vetoes of D.C. legislation. Not even the mayor has that power right now. We're making individual members of Congress more powerful than the mayor of D.C. over D.C. matters. No D.C. resident elected any of us. They had the ability to elect their mayor instead, though, in their D.C. council. And the second thing that we're doing here is we're extending the congressional review period. I don't understand why we have to do that. Why isn't 30 days enough? Why isn't the current process enough? There's a D.C. law you don't like. Well, we have several other bills here to address all the laws that a majority on this committee don't like today. Why isn't that enough? I think if you sat in the coffee shops and restaurants of D.C. and had residents have special access to you, you'll see that they're not happy with what this is because they had no say in what's happening today. And so I understand Congress's power over D.C. What I don't understand is why we have to take extreme measures. I think I do understand it's political, it seems, right? It's in reaction to political desires, but I don't think this is good for the city. I certainly don't think this is good for safety. It's not going to help anything.
For all those howdy-doodies that say, well, socialism is better than it's better than free enterprise, ask yourself this question. When the Berlin Wall fell, who ran to which side? And I think that answers the case for socialism. versus free enterprise.
I mean, if he really cares about the victims and survivors, he'd meet with them, talk to them. He's refused to do so. In fact, he's outright saying that what they're saying are lies and that it's a conspiracy hoax. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein had over 1,000 victims. This story and what happened here is not going away. And it's not just of interest to Democrats, it's of interest to every American. I talk to Republicans back home all the time that are coming up to me saying, hey, this Epstein thing is really important to me. And I've trusted the president. I feel betrayed. Not only are people seeing that he is not responding to his campaign promises on the economy, on lowering costs, they feel like they can't trust him. Here's someone who promised me something, and now he's not delivering. He's betraying the base. And so we're going to continue to remind the president that if he does not do the right thing for the victims and survivors, it's going to cost him support from his own party and from independent voters. We're going to continue to push that.
And you know, the birthday letter he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein, which he, by the way, lied about and said didn't exist, that is as much of a smoking gun as we might see. I mean, it was not very subtle. You know, we share a secret. It never ages. These enigmas never age. I mean, this was pretty gnarly. And again, the Wall Street Journal accurately described this note, and now they're trying to claim that he never signed it. It wasn't there. And that's just ridiculous. This note was part of a book that was created 22 years ago. Are we saying that they went back in time 22 years? And 22 years ago, they had reason to believe that Donald Trump would be president and that we were going to someone is going to forge this and try
or that he would be a Republican because he was a Democrat then. But
yeah, that's right. This is crazy stuff they're talking about now. And watching Caroline, speaking of the White House press corps, watching Caroline Leavitt up there, with that, again, a cross on her neck, professing her Christianity, even as she is lying through her teeth to protect a pedophile ring. Like, what is going on in this country right now? But that's where we are with this administration. It is just wild to see what is happening right now. And it's part of this larger pattern that we've seen of lying, of lawlessness, of cover-ups that go all the way to the top. And it's why so many of us are concerned right now about our democracy, about the rule of law, because you have a group of people right now who think there's one set of rules for Donald Trump and the people close to him and another set of rules for the rest of us. And that is a very, very dangerous thing.
The Chinese Communist Party is the biggest challenge that the United States of America faces in the world today. We face real threats at what China is trying to acquire by way of information and by way of access to critical infrastructure. So I think we've got to take a really hard look every time we see this kind of transaction arise.
You probably saw news that last week the Trump administration took this airstrike on a boat off the coast of Venezuela. First of all, we have sort of no information on who was on that boat or who was killed. It might be, as the Trump administration says, members of a drug cartel. It might be civilians. We don't know. But there's two important things here that are really concerning that you need to know about. First is the president has no legal authority to take that strike. We are not at war with Venezuela. We have not declared war against any of the cartels there. This is a president who every single day is acting like the law doesn't apply to him. That's a problem domestically, as he uses the Department of Justice to target and harass his political enemies. But arguably, this is an even bigger deal internationally, because if the president can take strikes against anyone, anywhere, without congressional authorization, then he can also drag us into wars overseas without any debate domestically. This is the most irresponsible, reckless president America has ever seen. And to let him engage in military activity overseas without the consent of the American people, it's so dangerous. But the other reason this matters is that his stated reason for taking the strikes to try to stop the flow of drugs in the United States, it makes no sense as the centerpiece of a counter-narcotics strategy. The Venezuela-Caribbean route, it's just not the main way that drugs come into this country. And to the extent it is, it's about the cocaine trade. The drug that is killing Americans right now is fentanyl. And fentanyl comes in through the Central American route, through Mexico. At the very same time that Trump is ordering these strikes on the boat in Venezuela, he's gutting the programs that we use to interrupt the drug trade coming through Central America and Mexico. We have dramatically fewer resources to stop fentanyl coming to the United States while we're taking airstrikes against a boat off the Venezuelan coast. This is a recipe for more drugs
specifically more fentanyl to come into the United States. This doesn't make sense as a counter-narcotic strategy. It is not allowable by law. It's a complicated, important story, but it's a story that we really have to talk about.